guest on today, Kyle Harrison. Let's bring a friend of mine in, Pat Burrow. Pat, how are you today?
Bill, I'm doing great, man. Glad to be on with you.
Giants fans, this is Extra Innings with Bill Lasky.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
On your exclusive home of the San Francisco Giants, KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM. The sports leader.
For Romero, it's been a harder go. There's the ball that gets away at first and ruled a swing, though. So the ball is retrieved to the right of the plate by Sugasti. And you can see Romero on the pitcher's mound signaling to him and shouting at him, go throw the ball to first base. Because that runner from third was heading home. The Angels get a run and no more. And the Giants win the ball game 9-5.
All right, welcome into an extra inning post-game show on a Sunday afternoon here in Northern California as we got to listen to John and Javi call a game in Scottsdale on a bright sunny day in Scottsdale, Arizona, where the LA Angels came in to face the San Francisco Giants. And starting off, Bob Melvin threw out 8 starters. It really looked like a solid lineup. The A-team was on the field, and you could go right with it. Lamont Wade Jr. to DH, to Adames and Chapman. Also had Fitzgerald at second, Flores at first, and then Encarnacion playing some left field. Yastrzemski was in right, and Jung-Hoo Lee was in center. And sure enough, what happens in this first inning, Robbie Ray, who was scheduled to be the second starter behind Logan Webb, really performed extremely well today. And he's been working on a changeup all winter, and he played with it like a third pitch, and it was awesome today. They started the game about a minute to 2 minutes early. The first pitch Robbie Ray threw, Tim Anderson gets a base hit. And for the next 9 outs, Robbie Ray was magnificent. The command, the execution on pitches, getting ahead of hitters, it was all there, bringing it up to about a 95, 96 mile an hour fastball, elevated the fastball at times, but the changeup was the new pitch, and it came in fashion today. And then right off the bat, Jorge Soler with a runner on third base in the top of the first inning. He didn't waste it. He threw 3 of them in a row, 3 changeups in a row, and Soler missed all 3 of them. And that just got him confidence going into the second inning. He only threw 9 pitches in the second inning, punching out 2 in a row. Matter of fact, he punched out 5 in a row at one time. The third inning, of course, a nice 1-2-3 inning, and really walked off the mound with 34 pitches only in 3 innings, 6 strikeouts. He only faced 10 hitters, 2 ground balls, and he faced the Athletics the first time out. He went 2 innings, 1 hit, 3 strikeouts. So if you're looking at what he's done so far, 5 innings with 9 punch-outs. Very impressive. Healthy, no doubt about it. But I love the execution on his pitches, getting ahead of hitters, jamming right-handers on the inside fastball at times. Good, hard breaking ball. But, boy, he's playing around with this changeup, Giants fans, and it's nasty. He really throws it well, getting the feel of it, getting the off-speed. And sure enough, he had a nice outing today. Followed up with Tyler Rogers, his second time on the mound. Of course, a couple ground ball base hits, a little chinker down the right field line. He goes up 1 inning, only giving up 1 earned run. Camilo Duvall got a little wild after he punched out the first hitter, ended up walking the second hitter, got a wild pitch. That was on Kingery. He ended up going to second base. He ended up coming back with a couple nice outs to get out of the inning. He gave up a base hit, and he also came 1 inning, 1 run with 1 hit, 2 punch-outs with a walk. And this was the third time Duvall's been out there. So, you start looking at dead arm syndrome. You start looking at trying to overthrow. Of course, Camilo Duvall coming in had to start throwing strikes. He ended up walking 1 guy, but he ended up getting through 1 inning. Sean Jelly. I mean, I look at Sean Jelly as a big piece of the bullpen. This was his 3rd time out there. The first 2, he really pitched well. Today, struggled a little bit, gave up a couple hits. He had a ball hit back to him that went straight to second base, but of course the instinct of a pitcher reaching out there, and he nicked the ball, and sure enough, he only lasted 2/3 of an inning. I have a nice interview with him later in the show. I talked to him this week about what he's trying to prove in spring training. After that, Seth Longsway, a left-hander who pitched in Eugene last year, a college kid. a left-hander came in to get out of the inning, and sure enough, he struck out a guy, a veteran college kid coming out of Ohio State, 6th-round pick in 2021, got the feet wet going into an A game and ended up throwing 1/3 of an inning. Keaton Wynn also getting his first opportunity in an A game against the Angels today. Of course, Keaton's coming back a mild injury he had, a little surgery, and that had to feel good for him to go out to 1 inning, and he ended up walking 1, striking 1. The pitcher that I really, really want to see really work today was Lou Trevino. This was his second time out there. He pitched 1 inning against the Mariners and punched out today. Another high velocity, good changeup, good breaking ball, 3-pitch mix. Like Javi Lopez said, the velocity's back, and he's coming back from an injury, but he pitched really well, a nice 1-2-3 inning. And sure, Envy Romero ended up finishing it up. A nice play by the outfield to get him out of the inning, and he ended up, it was 3rd time out there, a lefty, 34 years old, trying to make it out of the bullpen, as Miller right now is the only lefty coming out of the bullpen. And I think Bob Melvin's really looking to see who could add in that bullpen as a lefty if they really need him. But when you look at it, 8 pitchers through today, really a good job with most of them throwing strikes. The walks were very limited, only 2 walks in 9 innings. And that's what I think what J.D. Martinez is looking for, get ahead of hitters using all your pitches. On the offensive side, it really started in the first inning. Lamont Wade Jr. getting a walk, Jung-Hoo Lee getting a base hit, and this is what I really like what the Giants are trying to do, is run the bases, being aggressive on the bases. As Jung-Hoo Lee gets a base hit and Lamont Wade Jr. goes to third, Matt Chapman gets a nice base hit to right center field to score the run. And when you look at Jung-Hoo Lee as well as Matt Chapman going deep in the count, 3-2 to Lee and then 2-2 to Chapman. After that, Flores hits a line ball to shortstop. Yastrzemski ends up getting a walk to load the bases up. And Encarnacion really doing extremely well out of options, so there's a good chance he'll make that 25-man roster, playing left field as well as designated hitter. And he comes up, he didn't waste any time hitting the first pitch he saw, a fastball in the right center field, got all 3 runs in, and next thing you know, Encarnacion gets 2 more RBIs later in the game. He's got 10 RBIs already for the Giants in the 10 games they have played. The game continues in the 3rd inning, and this is what I really love to see when you're talking about running the bases correctly. Jung-Hoo Lee gets a base hit, Chapman gets a walk, Wilmer Flores flies out to left field, and this is the play I really think is going to happen if you run the bases correctly. A deep fly ball by Mike Yastrzemski, and both runners tag up. And this is a big play for him, as both of them tag up now at 2nd and 3rd with 2 outs, and a ground ball by Encarnacion to first base, and the pitcher jugged it. He really dropped it. Fermin juggled the ball, dropped the ball, never looked back, never picked up the ball, and here Chapman scores from second base on just a heads-up running play. Ron Washington ended up coming out instructing the pitcher what he did right, what he did wrong. That's what I love about Ron Washington. But when you look at the aggressiveness by the runners of the San Francisco Giants, that's just a big heads-up play by Matt Chapman, and the speed coming around third base, not slowing down, and they pick up 2 more runs. That inning ended up getting 4 runs for the Giants in the 3rd. They ended up hitting a home run by Luis Matos in the bottom of the 7th inning. Matos' first home run hit it deep in the left corner for a home run, his first. He's going to play a big part for the San Francisco Giants. Had a great winter ball, and he's producing the numbers that I think Bob Melvin's loving to see out of Luis Matos. But the Giants end up getting 9 runs on 8 hits, 1 error. The error coming on a play later in the game in the 9th inning by Schmidt, kind of one-hopped Villar at first, couldn't pick it, and that was the only error the Giants had. But good defense today once again, and I keep talking about him, and that's Kristen Koss. He played shortstop yesterday, and today he ended up being at second base. He picked a ball on a short hop, a really nice play, And in the ninth inning, a relay from the center fielder, and that was McCray. McCray to Koss, and he threw out to home, and he got the runner at home. Just a beautiful play by the outfield. And these are things that these guys work on in spring training, the cuts, the relays, going out, retrieving the ball, knowing where to throw it. And so far, Christian Koss is really playing superior defense at shortstop and second base. A lot recap right there. Really was the whole game. A lot more to dive into here if we isolate some of the game and some of the bats and some of the pitches that some of these guys threw, and we'll be able to talk about that as the show continues. Sean Jelly, as I said, I got a great interview with him later in the show. And then I went to my expert, of course, my buddy Mark Aban, just to get his thoughts on what the Giants have done in the offseason. We always talk about all the MLB analysts, and I love talking to Mark Aban. He has a great history of the game of baseball, and we talk about a lot of different things the Giants have done and what they are going to do in the 2025 season. That's coming up later in the show, too. 808 KNBR, if you want to get on the phone lines, 808-5627. As we take our first break on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show, I'm Bill Lasky. This is KNBR, the Sports Leader. We'll be right back.
listening to the former Giants righty. It's KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Lasky.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Heard on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR.
6 hits, 15 at-bats for the spring, and he drives one into right field, going back, now jumping, and it's over his head. Rada could not catch up to it. Hits the warning track, bounces up to the wall. Lee scores, Chapman scores, and here's Yastrzemski, and all three of them have scored. A double for Gerard Encarnacion. 4-0 Giants.
All right, welcome back to the Extra Inning postgame show on a Sunday. Giants win today in Scottsdale 9-5 against the LA Angels of Anaheim. 9 runs, 8 hits, 1 error for the Giants, but it all happened in the first inning. As you just heard John Miller, Encarnacion hitting the first pitch he saw after Yastrzemski gets a walk, and he hits it to dead right center field. And it's always great to hear John say, they all score, and sure enough, Yastrzemski scored all the way from first base. A lineup that we're probably going to see most of the year, and I think a lot of the discussion before spring training opened is when Bob Melvin came out and said, Jung-Ho Lee might be our third hitter. Well, Giant fans, he did extremely well yesterday and today. He went 2 for 3 yesterday and also 2 for 3 today. And, he really is an aggressive hitter. He likes to sit in the zone. He likes to take pitches. But, boy, when that ball comes in, he's very aggressive. The 3-2 pitch in the first inning, hitting a bullet to right field. And sure enough, and leading off the third inning, hit one up the middle for a base hit. A lot of times you're going to see that number 3 hitter come up there in times where you're going to be able to drive the run in or start a rally. And those are the things that I love about him. He gets on the bag. He's got good speed, healthy this year, and I'm sure Giants fans are going to love to see him be on the bag more than anything and playing good center field. Today you saw Yastrzemski in right, Encarnacion in left field. They're going to try to see what he can do in left field as well as play some first base. And these are things you're going to see as this spring training continues. Today's March 2nd. Of course, opening day is March 27th when they travel to Cincinnati. But you look at this lineup, and I love how he put Encarnacion in the 7th spot to give a little more power at the base of the order. Yastrzemski, of course, being a left-hand hitter in front of him. And we'll see where this all translates. Hopefully, we'll see if anything comes off this lineup that he likes. And maybe, it's something that he may turn around. You might see Jung-Ho Lee leading off one game. You might see Lamont Wade going back and seeing if he'll be hitting third. But he just really compliments Lamont Wade Jr. as walks. And he had 2 nice walks today. And that's the compliment of a leadoff hitter, to take a lot of pitches and draw the walks. And Lamont Wade Jr. does that very well. 808 KNBR, if you want to get on the phone lines, let's go out to San Rafael and talk to Joel. Joel, you're on Extra Innings with Bill Lasky. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Bill. How are you?
Doing good. Good game today. A good rally from yesterday. Of course, they lost to the Dodgers 6-5. But what did you think of the lineup today, Joel? Did you listen to the game, and did you like what Bob Melvin threw out there?
I did. I liked it. Bill, I want to talk to you about your interview yesterday with
Oscar Bernard, the hitting coach?
No, Bruce Jenkins.
That wasn't me. No, I didn't. That was Marty. I didn't interview Bruce Jenkins yesterday. Bruce was with Marty.
You didn't interview Bruce Jenkins yesterday?
No, Bruce was on with Marty. He was on today.
He was on with Marty
Sunday.
this morning.
Yeah, that's where you heard him. Yeah.
I listened. Who did you interview yesterday? A sports writer. I thought it was.
No, didn't do it with him yesterday. I did Oscar Bernard, the hitting coach. That's who I had in the beginning. And I'm trying to think who else I had yesterday. I'll get it in a second here. I got my notes right here. I also had Max Stassi, the backup catcher. We talked to both of them. That's okay.
I must have been in a different
what did you want to talk about? What did you hear in the interview that's a discussion point?
Well, it's a moot point if you didn't talk to him. You played at a high level, obviously, in the major leagues, and so you know a lot about the game. And so does Bruce. I mean, Bruce never played, but he has a lot of good insights. And, I have to apologize for this call, because if I if I somehow hallucinated on that interview with him, I don't want to waste anybody's time.
What's the discussion point, though, Joel? What were you going to talk about?
Well,
did he say something to discuss a baseball part?
You asked him a question, and then while he was answering the question, you talked over him and interrupted him and said what you thought, and then you would ask him another question, and like four times.
That wasn't me, Joel. So I did not interview Bruce Jenkins.
I apologize, Bill. I apologize
it's okay.
for that.
It's all good, buddy. Have a good day. Right. Appreciate your time. All right, let's go back to today, and I think the biggest surprise is this Robbie Ray changeup. I think this is something that he is putting in his pitch mix. He worked on it this winter, and when you get a new toy, you want to try it out in spring training, and no question he did that extremely well in the first inning and brought it back in the second inning. And when you look at what Robbie Ray throws on the mound, he's a high velocity 95, 96 mile an hour pitcher, got a real sharp breaking ball. Of course, we always understand when he throws fastballs, he grunts. You know, he gives you that extra, and that's what I love about him. A lot of pitchers do that, a lot of them don't, but he loves to do that. And now that you have the changeup, you might hear him grunt and throw a changeup. I mean, those are things that you literally outsmart the hitter with. And today, it's just keeping the ball down, off speed. When you're throwing 96, 95, all you have to do is throw that changeup in the high 80s, and it's a new pitch and an arsenal against the hitters. Just love it. I loved what Javi Lopez and John Miller were talking about it in throwing it back-to-back pitches. I love seeing that. And then also when you get a 2-0 count to off-speed the hitter when they're thinking fastball coming. So we're going to see more of this from Robbie Ray. Again, 5 innings he's pitched so far and really has been dominant in both outings. The first one was against the Athletics, only giving up 1 hit, striking out 3 in 2 innings. And today he did 3 innings, giving up the leadoff hit to Tim Anderson, and then he went right back out there and threw 9 up, 9 down, and 10 hitters faced, 2 ground ball outs, 6 bunch outs. When you look at this rotation, Logan Webb, of course, will be the ace. They have Robbie Ray as the possible number 2. Justin Verlander threw at Papago yesterday, threw about 40 to 45 pitches. Willie Adames hit a home run off him. But it doesn't matter when you're doing these side games or the Papago games against minor leaguers. It's getting your work in, checking speeds, checking spin rates, things like that. And also, you're looking at Justin Verlander adding a new pitch, a slow curveball. So even though the 42-year-old's going out there with the arsenal he has, now he's trying to add a different pitch. Of course, the wipeout split finger is one of the best pitches he throws. Velocity's still in the low 90s for Justin Verlander. And then you start looking at the 4 or 5 starters, and I got to circle my wagons on the 5th starter. Of course, Jordan Hicks right now is penciled in as number 4. The 5th starter is going to have a lot of, I would say, innings to throw before any kind of justification is going to happen in that 5th spot. You have Hayden Birdsong came in relief the other day. He threw 2 innings, giving up 2 hits, punching out 3. Of course, Harrison got his first outing. He went 2 innings, punching out 3. But the guy that I'm really looking at is Landon Roop. Landon Roop has had 2 fantastic outings. He's thrown a cutter this year, an off-speed pitch, and of course his 12-6 curveball in Scottsdale is working extremely well, throwing it down in the zone, getting punch-outs. And even before the game today, Bob Melvin was on with Kerry Crowley. Kerry was down there for the presser with Bob Melvin, and he said Landon Roop is just impressing him in getting ahead of hitters, punching guys out, off speeds there, and of course adding a pitch, the cutter. So these guys are working on things, and I love that with JP Martinez. When you start looking at what he's trying to prove here as a pitching coach, getting ahead of hitters, throwing the first strike. I've talked to several different relievers, and they say, hey, we got a little board in the back that we're watching all these pitchers throwing that first pitch strike because it means so much when you throw your arsenal after it. And it doesn't matter if you're a bullpen arm or a starting pitcher. The walks are going to kill you. The walks will mount up. and the next thing you know, you're working out of the stretch. It's a different time, even in spring training, when you're justifying trying to make a team, throwing strikes, getting ahead of hitters. A couple arms in the bullpen today I'd like to jump into. 808 KNBR if you want to get on the phone lines. The one is Lou Trevino. Of course, Lou Trevino, we remember him pitching with the Oakland A's, a closer, really lights out stuff, had arm injury. He's coming in as a non-roster pitcher. And both John Miller and Javi Lopez talked about his velocity getting back up there, and I think that's the number one thing when you look at a pitcher trying to come back from injury. Got some major league experience, throws the ball extremely well. A 1-2-3 inning, his second time out there. The first game he threw against Seattle went 1 inning, had 2 punch-outs, and here's a guy trying to slide into that bullpen somewhere, somehow, as a middle man, a setup man. He's got the experience. That's one thing I like about it, and I'm really going to watch him as he translates into the spring training, is how much he's going to get more work in, if he's going to go a little longer than 1 inning, maybe push him up to 2 innings. We'll find out what Bob Melvin is looking at. On the other hand, you're looking at some of the regulars that got in there today. Tyler Rogers, of course, his second time in there. Camilo Duvall's another one that's really going to try to get his walks down and get that momentum back that he had 2 years ago when they made the National League All-Star game. And then you got Sean Jelly. Sean Jelly, of course, 6'10", bringing the curveball, the changeup, the splitter. He's got all kind of different pitches, but he's really trying to refine a couple pitches. You'll hear that in that interview I have with Sean Jelly as the show goes on. All right, let's get to the phone lines. Let's talk to some Giants fans. Let's go out to Dennis in Walnut Creek. Dennis, you're on Extra Innings on a Sunday afternoon. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Doing well, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing good. I loved what Bob Melvin did today. He brought a lot of young players yesterday to Glendale to play the Dodgers, and he went out there with the 8 starters. I really believe this lineup could be your opening day lineup in Cincinnati. What did you think of the lineup today, and how are you, or how you feel about this team?
I feel good about the team. I really do. But I have to make a confession. I didn't listen to the game today because my grandson had another game today. He plays on Pleasant Hill.
Beautiful.
Little League, and opening day was yesterday, and then they played again today. Just got on a little while ago. Anyway, but that's what I call about it. I did want to talk about the lineup from what I'm reading, and I mean, I'm pretty excited about it. It's not just so much the starting lineup, as I think overall they got a pretty good 25-man roster, and I am impressed, as you sound like you are, about the pitching staff. The only thing is, like, we get excited, and I'm excited. I really am. I think that they got a good chemistry. I think everything is starting to fall into place with Buster being in there, and some of the new guys we picked up, especially Verlander. He's going to be so good for the young pitchers as far as, they're going to look up to him and see how he operates on and off the field and whatnot, and talks about his experiences, and it's just going to be an exciting year. My only concern.
And I really like what they did today, and you're seeing more of it. Better defense, hitting cut off people, playing a good solid defense, catching a ball, making the easy outs, and running the bases. Really aggressive running the bases today, first to third, and as I talked about, tagging up from first to second on a deep fly ball. Both runs scored. I think that's the way Buster Posey and Bob Melvin want to set up this offense. Get them on, get them over, and somehow get them in.
Well, it sounds like, since I didn't watch the game where any of them spring training, sounds like they've really cleaned up a lot of things from last year. Because last year, you're right, some of the mistakes and the errors were, they really hurt them. And I don't know, just a different vibe about this year. And I don't know if it's because Melvin has been given the looser reins to just, go out there and do his thing.
And I think team concept too, Dennis. Team concept. Yeah. They're in the weight rooms after the games. They're stretching in the morning. There's more early morning work on the backfields. That just brings the older players with the younger players to show them, hey, this isn't just the red carpet treatment. You work your tail off every day in spring training, and even after the game, you'll learn what you did right, what you did wrong. And sure enough, you're building more muscle, you're building more tone, and it makes the strength of the team even better.
Yeah, the other thing is I have an observation just by listening to their one-loss record. I mean, it seems like they're doing real well. They're, a comeback team and all that. I mean, I love it. But I remember 2011 in spring training, they were just golden. And then when the season started, they laid a big egg. I always worry about that. It's kind of like, I've been following the Giants since 1958. It's almost like when June came around, I was always like, oh, boy, here we go with the June swoon and whatnot.
Well, I think the biggest thing, too, Dennis, is to get out of spring training with no injuries.
Yeah.
And I think with Elliot Ramos right now with a little oblique, they're kind of holding him back. It's a smart move. Tyler Fitzgerald's starting to get back into the lineup. He had a nice base hit in the third inning today. But, step by step, day by day. Tomorrow they get a first day off. Most likely they'll have meetings and try to dissect the 60 people in spring training and see what the maneuvers come. As we're 3 weeks, maybe 3.5 weeks out before the opening day. But Dennis, thanks for the call today, and I'm so glad you had time to watch the grandkids play. That's always exciting.
Yep, and I love your show, Bill. I'm looking forward to the season. Can't wait, and keep up the good work.
All right, I appreciate it. Let's go out to Merced and talk to Sean. Sean, you're on Extra Innings on a Sunday afternoon. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing great, Bill. I want to talk about players that might be in the bubble to make the roster. I know that it's only March 1st, but, the Giants are looking for a need for left-handed relievers in the bullpen, and we just don't know about Eric Miller. I mean, he has a numbness in his hand. And, I'm thinking that Antonio is it Ramirez or Jimenez and Andy Romero are both kind of battling it out for the
on the left-hand side in the bullpen. Yeah, the bullpen. Romero went in today. That was his third time in there. Really struggled a little bit. Of course, 34 years old. He's looking to see if there's any opportunity there. There's some, you look at a couple other lefties, but there really isn't anybody that's really, Eric Miller has not yet on the mound. He's been on the backfields. Had a little hand issue. He's going to be back in the A game soon. I talked to him this week. I'll have his interview on next week. But I think what Bob Melvin's looking at, I think he can see some of these right-handers. They get the left-handers out. In one of his press conferences, he said he's not really worried about having two lefties in the bullpen as long as he has Eric Miller in that, maybe 7-8 inning. Maybe he comes in for one hitter in the middle part of the game. But he really impressed everybody last year. He was in 72 games. And that was his rookie year when you think about it. Tyler Rogers, 77. And then you look at Walker at 76, Miller at 72, and that was the top of the National League. So I think what Bob Melvin wants to do is stretch these starters a little deeper into the games so some of these pitchers don't get in so many, tough situations. And he's going to have a lot of arms down there. I think the one big question is, can Camilo Duvall come back from what happened last year, his ups and downs?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, it's a really blessing to have Landon Roop pitching so well. And, just put the pressure on Birdsong and Harrison. I haven't seen Harrison much. I'm sure we'll see him more. I think
he
Harrison
just got in his first game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harrison just got in his first game through 2 innings. And so, they're saying his velocity's up. He's got a good breaking ball again. Of course, we've seen that. Consistency with him and Birdsong and Roop are going to be big questions. Can they go more than 5 innings? And can the consistency be back to back to back? And I think that's when you start looking at some of the young starters, that's the big question mark.
Yeah, I think they'll keep Ray and Harrison because they'll need 2 lefties in the rotation. I think Birdsong will probably go to AAA. I mean, he looks really good, honestly. What do you think about the offense? What do you think about Grant McCray or Matos? Which one makes it?
Well, when you look at Yastrzemski and Jung-Hoo Lee being left-handers, I think Matos takes the edge. He had a great winter ball, was Rookie of the Year in winter ball, and, of course, he's hitting the hell out of the ball, hit a bomb today, hit a double yesterday. I think the Giants are liking him to play right field or a corner outfield. The only question mark in Encarnacion playing left field, I just don't know if he can play left field at Oracle Park. It's a different ballpark. And I really think he's going to slot into being your DH, maybe along with Lamont Wade Jr. as a left-hand side. The bench is really the question mark when you start talking about, Sean, what can the bench bring you? Is it going to be a Brett Wisely? Is it going to be a Casey Schmidt, a Luis Matos? Who's going to fill in as the backup catcher? A lot of question marks still have to prevail here before we get to March 27th.
Yeah, I know the second baseman, Tyler Fitzgerald, was ranked by, MLB Network as one of the top second basemen as far as speed and, running and stuff. But, I think the Giants will probably choose power over batting average because I know Brett Wisely hits for a little bit higher average than Casey Schmidt, but Schmidt can really hit the ball a long ways. But
got a little more power numbers, and you look at Schmidt playing third base and short and second. That makes him a positive on playing multiple positions. You look at Fitzgerald; he can also play the outfield. I think Fitzgerald's probably got the edge to be the starting second baseman. And I'm going to throw this out to you, Sean. I think Brett Wisely's got a good shot to be that left-handed second baseman that they could possibly use because he played well last year, having a really solid spring so far.
Yeah, because I see the hitters. So for our left-handers, we have Hung-Hoo Lee, Mike Yastrzemski, Lamont Ray Jr., Patrick Bailey switches, but he's better left-handed. You got Brett Wisely and McCray, who'll probably be in AAA. I just see Wisely making the team. But I hope Schmidt's not the odd man out. But who knows? It doesn't really matter where you start.
A lot of things happen. Yeah, you also have Lamb in there. Of course, Lamb's an experienced player. Played with the Diamondbacks, coming back with a couple of injuries. That's a possibility as a veteran coming off the bench. There really isn't much in the whole spring training that you're waiting to see somebody besides a younger player jump into the mix. And we're going to find out more, though, Sean. That's what's great about spring training. March 2nd today. So we'll have fun with it.
This year feels different. It feels like there's more energy, more vibe, a lot of young players, a lot of depth. It just seems
I agree.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, we'll find out, Sean, but thanks for the call today. I appreciate your call on a Sunday afternoon. Good stuff as always. All right, let's go out to Pioneer and talk to Jack. Jack, you're on Extra Innings after a Giants win today, 9-5 at Scottsdale, Arizona. Did you have a chance to listen to it?
I did, yeah. And Dr. Lasky, another year, and I hope that you don't spend a lot of time in the psychiatry ward with us patients like you did
let's hope
year,
not,
okay?
all right? Hope not, Jack. Let's start off with a positive so the door is closed right now because it is spring training, but you got to listen to the game. Did you like the lineup? Did you like what Bob Melvin put out there today in Scottsdale?
Yeah, I did. And that was not my first point, but while you're at it, my question is because we might have the players to do what he wants to do now offensively, why didn't he not do that last year?
Well, you had Farhan really controlling some of the lineups after the end of the year. I was really surprised to hear that, Jack. And Bob Melvin said that some of the things that were strapped was what Farhan wanted in the lineups. We saw that years before that. When you start looking at when he first came in here with Gabe Kapler, the lineups were all done through analytics. Bob Melvin, an old-style manager, as well as Buster Posey, saying, "Hey, it's your team, it's your lineup. You do what you feel because you're down in the clubhouse. You're listening to these guys. You're watching them taking BP. You know their thought pattern. You know their enthusiasm day after day." And I still think that's the way baseball should be played. If you go 2 for 3 and the next day, so what if you're going lefty-lefty? If you're seeing the ball so well, get them back in the lineup. And I think that's what Bob Melvin's going to have that choice to do this year.
Yeah, I'm really surprised, if you want to call it.
I lose you, Jack?
Sorry,
I'm losing you a little bit, Jack.
Like you said, we need more like a Bruce Bochy where you should look at the analytics and then with your baseball knowledge, I doubt seriously Farhan even knows what a bat looks like. So,
well, he's moved on. He's moved on, and we're turning a page on him. And,
yes, we are.
And I think the biggest thing, Jack, is just knowing what Bob Melvin has with his coaching staff, of course, Pat Burrell, Damon Miner, Oscar Bernard, the hitting coaches, JP Martinez, just really grasped this pitching staff and really has made them understand certain parts of the game that they have to improve on. And the number one thing is walks. They want to cut down the walks and put the ball in play.
Yeah, and real quick then, do you know JP Martinez from the past? Or so my point is, it's amazing. I know that Harrison was all excited about this year because they found a little bit of quirk in his delivery. Mm-hmm. And Harrison goes, "Oh my God, you're right. I can't wait for the." He's really excited because he feels a lot more comfortable out on the mound. And then of course with the changeup with Robbie Ray, yeah. I mean, it's amazing what a new set of eyes can do.
Well,
and
don't forget now, Jack, JP was on the bench. He was the guy that really was setting up a lot of the analytics and a lot of the setup for the pitchers to understand what happened in between innings. You did see him in the dugout talking to pitchers. The relationship he has, he speaks Spanish fluently, which helps Camilo Duval really nice. But I think what he's trying to do is understand each individual pitcher and what it takes them to work a little harder on this pitch, get ahead of hitters on this one, add a new pitch, add something different. And I think that's what you need out of a big league pitching coach. It's not about the same stuff you bring in every inning. The opposition has that. But if you can tinker and bring a new pitch in, like when you're talking about Robbie Ray's changeup, they're going to know now through spring training, but the hitters are going to have to adjust to it. You look at different, like Landon Roop with a cutter. You're talking about Harrison maybe tinkering something different to get a little more life on his fastball. I love hearing that out of spring training because it does get you excited.
Well, why don't you think that didn't happen last year then?
Well, things change. You got different pitching coaches. You had a veteran pitching coach last year. You got new eyes, and you're getting a little leash on what you can do, and that's what Bob Melvin wants with his coaching staff. And you know what? What happens? You get a little leash, and you start moving a little more, and you start seeing what you want. You start seeing more positives, and you dwell on the negatives. You work on the negatives, but at the same time, Jack, they're all in there for one thing, to make yourself better each day. If you can do that, and you can make it each better, each start, each appearance from a reliever, each at bat through the batting coaches, it relieves the negative thoughts in your head, and it builds a positive way of thinking and a positive way to make adjustments, and that's the game of baseball.
Well, here's to you. I hope you don't have a lot of office time.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks for your call. Appreciate your time. Good stuff right there through the callers. And it's an array of light. It's an array of sunshine. The Giants playing a lot better baseball so far. I really believe the defense has gotten better, sparkling defense, and I can't wait to see Chapman and Adames on the left side. I really think Fitzgerald will be fine at second base. I know a lot of callers and a lot of attention is, can he play second base? You didn't think he could play shortstop last year, and he filled in very well after Luciano could not do it. Luciano's now in left field, made a brilliant diving catch today. So all these things are making changes, but they're all for the good. And I think Giants fans are watching a better team, a team that's more cohesive, and a team that's building confidence each day as spring training moves on. All right, we're going to take a quick break. 808 KNBR if you want to jump on the phone line. Sean Jelly, Mark Aban is coming up. We'll have more right here on Extra Innings on KNBR, the sports leader.
From the mound to the mic, this is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Lasky.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him by saying to your smart speaker, play KNBR.
Here's the 0-2 pitch. Strike 3 called. Breaking ball or off-speed pitch on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a nice groove right now. Great start to the spring for Robbie Ray, and this has been his second outing. He's cruising.
All right, back on extra innings. I loved Hobby Lopez. He's cruising, and Robbie Ray did that extremely well today. Only threw 9 pitches his second inning, 34 in 3 innings, bringing up the velocity to 95, 96. And all I can tell you, Giants fans, wait till you see the Mickey Mouse, or I should say the Bugs Bunny changeup. I mean, if you remember watching cartoons earlier, Bugs Bunny was pitching and he threw a changeup and the guy swung like 5 times. That's the kind of pitch Robbie Ray's got. And if he can include that with the arsenal, and we saw it today, it's going to be really, really good for him. And it keeps his pitch count down. And that's one of the things we always look at to get a pitcher, especially starting pitcher, into that 5th, 6th, 7th inning is less pitches. And today, only 34 pitches. Really good. 10 hitters, 2 ground balls. The Giants ended up winning 9-5. Some great at-bats in the first inning from Wade Jr., Jung-Hoo Lee, Matt Chapman, of course, the Encarnacion with a double in the right center field with them all scoring 10 RBIs already in 10 games for the big right-hander. Encarnacion played left field today. And I know back in the 3rd inning, I talked about this earlier, ground ball to first base, and Fermin from the Angels getting over there, dropped the ball. He literally dropped the ball, never picked it up. And Matt Chapman, who had tagged up to second, cuts third, and he scores, and it was just an aggressive running play. And really, Ron Washington, I loved what Javi and John were talking about when Ron Washington came out there and talked to Fermin, and he was educating him. It was really a teacher-student, one-on-one. What did you do right? What did you do wrong? And I think the biggest thing is you forgot about your runners. You forgot about that runner coming from second to third. And he didn't pick up the ball. He never turned his head. As first basemen get the ball to the pitcher covering first base, your back of the head is to the infield. He dropped the ball, never picked it up, 2 runs scored. A nice life lesson there from Ron Washington to Fermin. And that's one thing I love about my buddy Ron Washington, always teaching. That man is so good of a teacher. And the Angels picked him up. And, of course, last year the Angels struggled. This year, 5-4. A lot of good things. They picked up a few choice players. We saw a couple ex-Giants in there today. Of course, J.D. Davis got a double in the 9th inning. And you saw Sean Anderson really dial in, struck out 6 guys after he gave up 1 hit with the home run to Matos. But a couple ex-Giants trying to hook on with another team. And J.D. Davis, of course, started out last year, ended up going to Oakland. And he was left out without a team. And it was just a tough it really was this tough situation for J.D. Davis. I'm sure a lot of Giants fans remember all that. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go to Medford, Oregon, and talk to Dave. Dave, you're on with Extra Innings with Bill Lasky. How you doing today?
Doing great, Bill. And I got to tell you, the points that you were just bringing up with Ron Washington is a great segue to my question. And basically what it is that throughout the year, they always talk about the importance of spring training, going over fundamentals, practicing plays to the plate, running the bases, double plays, positioning the infield. However, you never really see them do that because typically when you get a broadcast, it's going to be of a game that they're playing or something of that nature. And I, since I cut the cord, I don't get the games, so the radio is my lifeline, to the Giants, which, includes, listening to you and, some of the other guys that are commentators on KNBR. But it's, when do they do these fundamentals? When is it that they're doing that kind of practice and going over these things? Because it's such a critical time, but they always reference spring training to when they're doing this.
They usually do morning workouts. Each day they're doing something different. Pitchers call it PFP, pitchers fielding practice. They'll go out in the backfield and all they'll do is cover first base. They'll do bunt plays. They'll do balls back to them where they throw to first base or run the ball over. They'll do double plays where they'll know if the second baseman is covering or the shortstop's covering. all these different PFP things they do with the pitcher. Same thing with squeeze bunts, where they shuffle the hand, getting the ball thrown to home. Then they do cut and relays, and that's when they get your infield and outfield out there, and they do the double cuts where the second baseman goes out, shortstop shades them, or the shortstop will go out in left field, the second base shades them. So in case there's an overthrow, there's another player behind them. We saw it in the World Series when, Pablo was playing third base and they ended up throwing somebody out. I can't remember who they threw out at home plate in the first inning, but it was a double cut. And I think Crawford was the one that threw Felder out. That's who it was, Fielder. And that was a double cut. But these things are all manufactured by learning where you're supposed to be when the ball's hit. If the ball's cut in the gaps, you have the outfielders knowing where to throw. A lot of these guys have to hit that cutoff. But as you asked, that's all done in the morning. A lot of it is done before the first game start, but they'll continue to keep doing it because the young players need to establish themselves. And as Kristen Koss is just everywhere, every place and right. He played shortstop yesterday, played second today, got a nice cut. But most of all the practice time is done in the morning.
Now, are the players, the veteran players, participating in doing these as much as the younger guys?
Oh, sure. They're out there all the time. And then you get a guy getting them 2 buckets of balls for ground balls where they don't throw it over. They're just catching the ball. Of course, a lot of this also can be done in Papago, one of the best facilities the Giants have in the minor leagues. It's 5-10 minute ride over there, and they have 8 fields, and they do a lot of work over there. That's where Verlander threw his B game. They call them B games or minor league games where they get to work in. They'll have all the cameras up and all the analytics to see what he's doing, and they'll go over what he's trying to do. He may want to try 2 curveballs in a row, or let me elevate a couple fastballs to get him up. But they're working on different things when they're working in these, B games, as I call them. They used to be all minor league games, and now they're playing against each other. Back in the day, would play like the Angels B game. You'd go there early in the morning at 9 or 10 o'clock, and you'd get work in going against their minor leaguers. But now there's so many players there that they play against each other, and that's why Verlander didn't throw yesterday against the Dodgers.
And how do they decide who participates in those?
A lot of it is the pitchers and then the hitters. Like yesterday, Bob Melvin kept a lot of regulars back, so they got to hit off Verlander. Chapman stayed back. Mostly all the regulars stayed back last year or yesterday. McRae, Matos, Jung-Hoo Lee, Encarnacion, Schmidt, Villar. So you start thinking about all those names. A couple of them are going to be regulars. Most of them are trying to make the roster. And most of the time when they travel like that, they usually don't take your number one lineup there. Same thing with the Angels doing today. They only had a few guys. Trout was in there, a couple other players. So it's like what you want to do when you're not playing in the game. You're going to get your work in. Extra BP, extra fielding, pitchers with PFP. You're not just going to go there, you're not playing, you're going home. They're working, and what I'm hearing, there's more work done in the mornings. There's more stuff on the side work, and I love that because nobody should be standing around. They should be doing different things to improve fielding, defense, and just really watching what they just did in learning tapes and watching where your pitches are and seeing if that's what you want to accomplish. Did you miss this pitch? Are you trying to pinch a corner? You trying to elevate a fastball? All good things, boy. That's the teaching part of it. And one thing that Buster Posey's done, he's brought in a lot of ex-players that have had great careers. JT Snow was there this past week working at first base. Hackman Leonard was down there. Castillo was down there. You had Petit down there. Now you have Scudero and Lopez down there. They're all good instructors because they all have had accomplishments in the field or at bats or pitching. And those are the things as players, you listen to them a little bit more. And those are the things you grasp on.
And so in addition to that, so with that many people helping these players out, young and veteran, I take it they have, like staff meetings, pretty often where they
staff meetings and, a lot of these guys are coming down for the first time. So they want to know, hey, before I open my mouth, before I teach, what can I do and what I can't do? And I think right now what I'm hearing, Bob Melvin's letting them go out there and work with them. And that justifies what they're there for, to teach them. if you can grasp one thing each day from these guys, boy, you're going to get better instantly.
And one last question, Bill, is that how much time do they put in per day? In other words, I know it's the job aspect is, they got to show up, they got to be there for so many hours and so many days a week. Is it like an 8 to 5 kind of function?
What I'm hearing, and I'm not down there, what I'm hearing from the inside, they're walking in the door sometimes at 6:30 in the morning to get some morning workouts in, get stretching in, get some light weights, and get out there by 8:30 on the field. And when you're hearing that, what I want to hit, hey, come out, let me hit 2 buckets of baseballs for you. Let me get you about 60, 70 ground balls. Get out there in shorts and a T-shirt, and you're just working angles. You're working where to pick up the ball. Where's your glove? Where's your body? The balance of throws. They're all great things to do, and one of the greatest is Ron Wotus. He's been around there for so long. He was talking about Scooter Row today on Marty's show in the beginning, and he was talking about older guys coming out there just to feel the ball right. Where are your hands supposed to be? Where are the throws supposed to be at second base on double plays? When you got guys in there for many years, as Ron Wotus is, you listen, and he's out there teaching. And that's what I love about the teaching aspect. It doesn't matter if you're in college or high school. If you teach correctly, they're going to understand the game better. And I think that's what the Giants are trying to do.
Amen to that. Thanks, Bill. I do appreciate the answers.
Appreciate the call, Dave. Really good stuff. And, right from there from Dave is exactly what I think Buster Posey is trying to do with some of the older players that have had great careers. And you learn from them. You keep talking about JT Snow, 6-time Gold Glove. You're going to listen to him where your feet are supposed to be at the bag. You're going to listen to him how he throws to first base. And you just go right around. Marco Scudero's in there now, and, he's fantastic second baseman. And what's happening at second base there's Fitzgerald, Schmidt, Wisely, all young players trying to advance to play second base. And here's Marco Scudero telling you some of the ways to do it, some ways to cheat a little bit to the left, maybe up the middle. But all in all, they're there to improve your game. And it always comes back. Did I get better today? Am I going to get better tomorrow? What did I learn today? What is it going to do for me down the road? All good things right now with the orange and black in spring training, and it's working. As you can see, a lot of the young players playing in these games are playing better defense. And I keep talking about Christian Koss. Boy, he is just playing superior shortstop, and today he played superior second base, and he had a nice cut relay in the 9th inning. He gunned the guy at home plate. All right, coming up next, I sit down with Sean Jelly. Sean Jelly, before today's outing, had 2 spotless outings, punching out a lot of guys. And, of course, last year, when you look at what he did, 58 games he was in, 80 and 2/3 innings, 14 walks, really around the plate a lot. So sit back. We're going to talk to Sean Jelly coming up next right here on the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Lasky. Coming up, KNBR Sports Leader.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with former Giants right-hander Bill Lasky.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR. Play KNBR.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Lasky, my guest today. 6'11" right-hander, finished his first full season in the major leagues. Let's welcome in Sean Jelly. Sean, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Bill. Thanks for having me. I always appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, and let's talk about the 2025 season. Spring training has started. What's motivating you? What's determination in your mind? What's going on in your mind as you walked into that clubhouse this year?
Well, it's always exciting getting back for the first time. I mean, I think it's just exciting to be back and see everybody, be around, have that atmosphere going again in the clubhouse. It's kind of like the first day of school. You know, you're excited to see all your friends and everybody after summer break. So it's really, really fun to just simply be back here. And then, you know, like we said, we're throwing off the mound already, and just seeing guys work, it just makes it that much more excited.
Let's recap a little bit about 2024. Like I said, your first full season in major leagues, 58 appearances, a lot of high leverage appearances, kind of middleman, long man. What was some of the mental side of that game coming into those parts of the game? And a lot of times you always had runners on base and you had to put the fire out.
I mean, it's the same game, whether it's the first or the ninth. You know, he's still 60 feet 6 inches away from home plate, and you still got to throw strikes and get that guy out. And that's kind of how I try and approach it. And obviously, certain situations produce a little bit more adrenaline. You know, extra innings or coming in with runners on and all that sort of stuff. But it's still the same game. You got to throw quality pitches. You got to throw strikes to get the batter out, and that doesn't change regardless of the inning or the situation.
Sean, it's a big, big deal after that first full year. You get to see the whole 162 games. You get to watch in and out, the motivation. How do you stay balanced? How do you go in that locker room every day wanting that ball?
I mean, this is the dream. This is, you know, as a 5-year-old kid in the backyard, this is what you think about doing. And for me, that thought, that dream, it never stopped. And now being here, I mean, I can still remember the feelings of walking in my first major league camp and seeing guys like Buster Posey and Pablo Sandoval and just walking in and just being around that much talent and hardware. I mean, it's still that same excitement. And, you know, now we got guys like Justin Verlander that are coming in who's, you know, more than likely on his way to Cooperstown here soon. So it's still that same excitement and almost deer in the headlights kind of thing. You just get caught and you just get starstruck a little bit, like, holy cow, like this is pretty incredible, the talent that's in this room right now. And so that never goes away. I mean, that's, for me, that's every single day going to the clubhouse. There's always something along those lines that gets me really excited to be there and play a game. I mean, hell, I'm playing a game for a living. I can't complain any more beyond that.
Well, 2024, we spoke a few times, and you always talked about the bullpen and how much it was brotherhood and how much everybody picked each other up. Does it start right now when you come to spring training? Is it the same uniqueness? Is it the same brotherly love?
Absolutely. I mean, I believe the stat that was said was I think we used 30 different pitchers last year in 2024. And right now, I think there's 34 or 35 pitchers in camp. So I mean, it's not always just 13 guys for a full season. And so it starts with everybody, and it's every single arm. It's every body that is here. It's where it all begins, is right here in camp.
Sean Jelly joining me on Extra Inning Postgame Show. Of course, Sean, you and I are tall pitchers. Flexibility is so important to us. Do you do much weight work in the off season, and do you bring it into spring training at all?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't sit there and do nothing all off season, or at least I can't. I'm not one of those guys. Got to keep the body moving. Take my couple week break or so once the season ends and relax a little bit, give my body a break. But I kind of treat it as a ramp up, even including spring training. You don't want to show up at, it's not, spring training isn't opening day. You're not trying to be 100% for, February 11th. You're trying to be 100% for March 27th. And so it's just rolling that build up and including spring training and just rolling it all the way to opening day.
Sean, as you start spring training, of course, the repertoire of pitches, you have to watch out for the knuckle curve you throw, maybe the cutter. What are some of the pitches you work on in the beginning of the season, in spring training, and how many weeks does it take till you get all your pitches going?
Well, spring training is a really good time for, does this pitch work to, this hitter, whether it be for me, does the cutter work against righties, same-sided? I mostly threw to lefties last year. Mm-hmm. So just kind of those little experiments, or whether it be hitters or locations or even certain counts. And so this is the time to kind of experiment and test those things out. So, get iron it all out now before you get to the season, right? So you're not experimenting, you know exactly what works. And I mean, you're always working on your pitches all the time. You can't ever take a day off of one, because before you know it, it takes you 2 weeks to get that pitch back, and you just don't ever want to be behind the 8 ball on that one.
Every year, every player comes into camp, I'm in good shape. What are some of the goals? What are some of the things individual that you look at and say, hey, I got to get better at this. I got to work on this. I got to have a different approach to so many different hitters. What do you do in your mindset when you're sitting in that locker room and you're like, okay, what am I going to work on today? What can I make better for myself?
Well, for me, a big overarching season goal for me is last year, right before the All-Star break. I had a little bit of a rough patch because teams kind of figured out how I pitch and how I'm going to attack them, and kind of got the script down on me. And so just finding ways and figuring out ways to keep them guessing and not fall into the same script. Obviously, if something's working, you're going to keep going to it, but how to flip it and play that chess game with the hitters and change your script before they have a chance to read it, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that's kind of the big overarching theme. And I picked up some things last year and learned a lot, and just trying to implement that going into this year.
Do you look at videos? Do you look at certain hitters? Do you do anything like that in the wintertime? Is that something you try to educate yourself on?
I wouldn't necessarily say I sit and watch video in a film room. Obviously, watch some games, that are on in the playoffs, but in terms of a video, not so much. It's more so, off seasons for me at least, it's more so about me getting me better, focusing on myself and polishing off my craft, and then getting into spring training and getting back into scouting reports and all that sort of stuff is when that kind of comes into play.
JP Martinez now is the head pitching coach. Of course, you've had him a few years, a mind of a great pitcher. He does so many things with analytics and prepares you. What's the difference approach that he's making so far this year?
Yeah, I think he's been the same guy so far, which is nice. I think sometimes new role, some people might think that they have to change a whole lot, but he's been consistent. He's been the same guy, and he knows what he does well. He knows what we do really well, and we all have a really good relationship. And he's really good at putting the ownership on us to push each other, and obviously he's there every step of the way, but I think he really wants to put that on ourselves to push each other every single day to get better, to learn from each other, and if there's anything that ever misses or something slips through the cracks or however you want to phrase it, he's there to help us out. And I mean, all of our pitching coaches are. I mean, down there in the bullpen, Garvin's great and getting us ready for the game. And those guys are just so good at knowing us and knowing what we need on a day-to-day basis to help us get prepared and keep pushing us to get better every single day.
A few more minutes with Sean Jelly on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. Let's go in the off-season. What did you do fun? I know got a couple kids, got a great family. Where did you guys go? Did you go on any great vacations?
No, I like my off-seasons to be quiet. There's a lot of hustle and bustle during the season. You're living out of a suitcase for 7 months. I'm a homebody during the off-season. I went back home to Minnesota for the holidays, but didn't do a whole lot of travel this off season. Just really wanted to lay back a little bit and just enjoy the quiet.
What about sports? I know you and I talked about, growing up in Minnesota, hockey was big, and then you also had football. What are some of the things you do to relax?
Well, when I went home for the holidays this year, I did go to a Minnesota Wild game. That was I love hockey games. Gosh, they're the best. Unfortunately, I live in Richmond, Virginia, so the closest team is the Capitals. So getting season tickets is a bit of a task on that one. But yeah, I love watching hockey. I watch football a little bit. I watch college football more so than I watch the NFL. And that's just because I went to an SEC school, and SEC football is it's everything down there. That's lifeblood of everybody and every fan down there in the SEC. So I watch some college football, but really, I don't know, here and there. If there's a game on, I'll watch it, but nothing fanatical, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I tell you, you and I talk because I grew up in Ohio, and you have to like hockey. I mean, hockey was our sport. I mean, it was a great approach. I had a Detroit Red Wings, of course, watching them, and it was a part of our blood to go out and watch hockey games and to try to skate, or you played in the backyard, with a stick and just regular shoes on. But those were fun days. I remember them so well.
Yeah, there was a little pond by my house growing up, so we would play boot hockey all the time. And, I was never any good. I'm kind of Bambi on ice, but still love doing it. I wish I had skill at hockey. I think that would be pretty cool to be able to have that. But yeah, hockey is just like football is the lifeblood of everybody, down south. It's the lifeblood for us in the north, and especially Minnesota, state of hockey and everything.
I hear you, my friend. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Good luck in spring training, and always a pleasure talking to you, Sean.
No, pleasure's all mine. I appreciate it.
Sean Jelly on Extra Innings. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Lasky keeps the postgame rolling live right here.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
On KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM, the sports leader.
No homers, but he has 4 runs batted in. Now he belts one deep down the left field line. Really well struck. Way back there. Adios, Pelota. Over the wall, into the visiting bullpen. Well to the right of the 360 marker in that left field corner. His first home run of the spring. And the Giants have their first run since the 3rd inning and lead 9-4.
All right, we're back on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show with Bill Lasky. Hope you enjoyed that little interview with Sean Jelly. Good guy, man. He just loves to talk baseball, and I love talking to him. That was Luis Matos' first home run that John Miller just called. That happened in the 7th inning. A 2-1 pitch, a fastball. He didn't miss it, and he drove it out to left field into the opposing bullpen. But that was his first home run into the spring, and a lot of good things for Luis Matos as possibly being that 4th outfielder and playing some right field behind Yaz and a flip-flop, but we will see as it continues as we get closer to March 27th of opening day in Cincinnati. But the Giants won today 9-5, 9 runs, 8 hits, 1 error for the Giants, 5 runs, 11 hits, no errors for the LA Angels. Giants are now 5-3 with 2 ties, and tomorrow they get an off day. That's right. Shut them down. Get them a day of golf, or go take a lazy day and sleep in if you want. But the Giants will entertain an off day tomorrow. Then they'll be out to face the San Diego Padres on Tuesday. All right, coming up, I always like talking to Mark Aban. He always gives you that positive energy. He's a big Giants fan for so many years. Of course, just had an outstanding career at KTVU Channel 2 as being the sports director. And I had a chance to sit down with him this week, and we sat down just talking about Giants baseball, some of the past, some of the future, and what we're going to see in the 2025 season. Sit back. I get a nice interview with Mark Aban coming up right here on the Extra Inning Postgame Show on KNBR. We'll join you in a second. Have a good one.
Bill is back.
Fired up, bringing it, all excited.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Lasky.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Listen on your Google Home smart speaker by saying play KNBR.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show as we get into the month of March. Looking forward to March 27th when the San Francisco Giants go to Cincinnati for the home opener for the Reds. Well, we've heard all about all these professional analysts from MLB to ESPN. Well, today I'm going to my professional analyst. He worked at KTVU from 1979 to 2022, 43 years as a sports director. Let's welcome in my buddy Mark Aban. Mark, how are you?
Hey, Bill. Great to be on with you. And, I know you got a lot of other analysts, but I'm pretty confident going back to 1965, I've seen more Giants baseball than a lot of these guys. So
yeah, I agree with you.
I'm prepared to talk Giants baseball for sure.
Well, let's start off right off the bat, Mark. In 2025, we have a new president of baseball operations. That's Buster Posey. Of course, you and I watched this man become one of the best catchers in a Giants uniform, a profound Hall of Famer down the road. What did you think of that move, and were you excited by it?
I absolutely loved it, and so far so good for Buster, and I wouldn't expect anything less. And I'll tell you what I think is the differentiator for Buster. I mean, beside the fact that he's a success and a winner at everything he does at every level of life, personally and professionally. But what I like is his approach so far, Bill, in that he's very pragmatic. He doesn't make knee-jerk decisions, and he didn't come in and all of a sudden fire 55 people, in the minor league system. He's taking a look at the entire program that the Giants have put together, and I think he's going to make changes, but they are going to come after a lot of analysis. And he is a guy who relies on the brain trust around him. I think he's surrounded himself with good voices. And most of all, which if you look at it, most successful leaders in any venture, sports, business, whatever, they are people who don't consider themselves necessarily the smartest guy in the room. They will stop and listen to other people's advice and opinions. Doesn't mean they're going to follow those opinions, but they're going to take it into consideration. And I think that's what I've noticed most from Buster is his approach is very reasonable, and he's open-minded, and he will look to get advice from a Dusty Baker or a Ron Wotus or guys who've been around. I love that about him, and I think he's going to be a success, but it's going to take a couple of years, and I love that.
I agree. I totally agree, and I think one of the major subject lines in the offseason was picking up Willie Adames. He felt the shortstop position was open. He tried Marco Luciano, tried Tyler Fitzgerald, even Nick Ahmed, but I think what he felt was he needed to get strength up the middle, and he got the best free agent out there as a shortstop coming over from the Milwaukee Brewers through free agency. 7 years, $182 million. How did you feel like, getting a Willie Adames in that lineup?
Absolutely loved it as his first major move, most money the Giants have ever spent on an individual player. But Willie Adames is not only a talented, obviously a performer on the field, both offensively and defensively, but he is a culture changer. He's the kind of guy that livens up a clubhouse. It's an intangible. It's a vibe. It's a certain type of person, an individual, and you've been around them, that they just inspire energy. And it's positivity. And he's a guy who shows up in the lineup. He may have a little nick here and there, but he's not going to bow out of the lineup because of that. And already you get the impression that this guy is, like I say, an attitude changer because he brings it. And you can't do that if you don't perform on the field. I could be in the best mood every day, walk in with a smile and, hey, buddy, how's it going? Let's do it. And I'm hitting 162, and that doesn't fly. But this guy is, a guy who walks the walk, talks the talk. And I think it was a nice move. And I know some Giant fans were a little disappointed in that they didn't make more moves. But if you look at the big picture, I think it's very smart on Buster's part, because I think it was proven last year. And tell me what you think, Billy. You cannot. Everybody was like, "Oh, Farhan had a great off season. He signed, Brett Snell and Matt Chapman, and he brought in, the DH Soler and all that stuff." But I think we all found out you can't throw together a team in late March and expect to get a cohesive unit. You don't build through free agency, you add to it. And that's what I love about Buster's approach too, is because he's going back to basics. It looks to me like he's trying to build through the farm system and really hone in on the Giants' success of the past, which is pitching, defense, and boom. If you need a guy, maybe you go out on the trade market. Maybe you go to free agency, but you don't willy-nilly go out and sign 5 free agents, in the offseason and expect everybody to meld and turn you into a contender right away. And that's what annoyed me so much last year. It's like all these people saying, "Oh, he had such a great off season. He signed all these guys." No, that's not how you build a team. Do you agree? You can't throw in a bunch of free agents and expect it to work.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Again.
I really agree with you. Mark Aban is joining me on the Extra Inning Postgame Show, and you saw the strengths, you see the negativeness on this team, and I think the biggest part of what we're looking at, Mark, let's look at some of the positive roles on this team, and we're going to start off with that starting rotation. Logan Webb, considered to be the ace of the staff. Robbie Ray coming back from a half a year really in the big league level after going on through the Tommy John surgery. Justin Verlander, 42-year-old free agent, picking him up on a 1-year contract. Then you look at Jordan Hicks back in that starting rotation. And then the fifth spot, as we talk about, are the youngsters. Harrison, Birdsong, Roop. Tell me your thoughts about that starting rotation.
Well, obviously, as you well know, as being a former major league pitcher yourself, Bill, you can never have enough pitching. And I like how the Giants have kind of a nice mix of some veteran strength and also some promising youngsters. You mentioned Birdsong. He looks to me like the outstanding one of the bunch, and as far as natural stuff and just a presence on the mound, and I love his go-get-'em attitude. And, and then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Justin Verlander, who brings an attitude to the pitching staff. He's done everything at a Hall of Fame level in his career. He's been to the World Series. He's won a Cy Young, an MVP, all that stuff. And that his advice that comes with it and his presence to the youngsters can't help but have a positive effect. The one thing, and I've been dying to throw this by you, and I know Jordan Hicks, man, I think that guy has impressive stuff, but just my opinion, Bill, I think he would be the greatest setup man and back end of the bullpen guy, but I know he has it in his head that he wants to be a starter, and I think we saw extreme mixed reviews last year on him. Started out strong, ran out of gas, and I'm not sure I know or see anything that would make me change my mind. That guy is lights out as a back end of your bullpen guy. And, if you've got the guys they already have there and added him to the spice and the mix back there, I think it'd be great. I'm sure they consider this, Mark. Of course, last year, toward the end of the year, he came out of the bullpen a little bit. And let's jump into that bullpen and really find out why he couldn't get into that bullpen, because this bullpen's pretty stacked right now with Ryan Walker right now taking over the closer's position. Taylor Rogers getting traded to the Reds, so now they only have one lefty down there with Eric Miller. Of course, Tyler Rogers, Camilo Duvall, Sean Jelly, a lot of names that fit in a setup role. And I really believe what could be next. Could they use a Landon Roop down there? Could they use other pitchers that are in that youth, get a good solid arm to be a long reliever? That's why I think they're ready to give Jordan Hicks another opportunity as a starter. Your thoughts? Yeah, I think obviously Jordan Hicks came here, signed a big contract with kind of it seemed to me anyway, a verbal agreement that, we're going to give you a shot to be a starter. He's made it clear that that's how he sees himself. But, I really think that the key to the bullpen is the kid who had so much trouble, Camilo Duvall, with his control last year. That guy has proven, if he's got his act together mentally and his confidence level high, he can be a lights-out closer. I think he is really the key to the whole bullpen. If he can show that he can regain his form, man, that lightens the load on everybody else. And then, like you mentioned, Landon Roop, he's got a lot of promise. Everybody talks about his curveball, and he's at a stage in his career where he's going to just be happy to make the big league team, don't you think? I see him as a guy like, oh, you want me to be a middle guy, a long relief guy? I'm in. Tell me where to go. He's not in a position, he's not in a position in his career where he can go, no, I'm a starter only. But that's probably the long-term view for him, and he has great potential there. But, yeah, he looks to me, along with Jelly, to be who has more experience in that role, as a do-it-all, kind of what do they call it, a Swiss Army knife type of guy. Tell me where to go. So I see an abundance of arms down there with great promise. There's no depressing thought when it comes to the Giants' potential pitching staff, I don't think.
Mark Aban has joined me on for a few more minutes. Let's look at the potential starting nine, Mark, and get your thoughts on this. Of course, left field.
Okay.
Let's get to Elliot Ramos in left field, Jung-Hoo Lee out in center, Mike Yastrzemski will be playing right field. Then you look at first base, Lamont Wade Jr., Wilmer Flores, second base, pencil in Tyler Fitzgerald. Of course, we've talked about Willie Adames, Matt Chapman, a Gold Glove winner at third, and the new Gold Glover, Patrick Bailey. What do you think of the starting nine?
I think that, you obviously have some question marks. Will Elliot Ramos be able to be the first half guy that we saw last year, or the second half guy? I think if he can meet us somewhere in the middle and be like a 275 hitter who hits 25 home runs, knocks in 80 to 90 runs, man, I mean, that would be awesome. Jung-Hoo Lee, obviously, before he got hurt, showed a lot of promise in center field. I think he's an excellent defensive center fielder, but he's been injured even over in Korea before he came here. He's got to prove he's in for the long haul and can handle, 162 game schedule. But I like his game. I like the fact that he's a contact hitter. And to me, I got two guys that I look at in the outfield, and I'm predicting, you can go ahead and play this tape in September, see how I do. But I think this is going to be a year for Luis Matos like it was for Ramos last year. I see him as a breakout guy. He lit it up in Winter League, and I think he got a lot of confidence. We saw flashes of it last year when at one point he was the National League Player of the Week. I think this guy has great promise, and I can see him being the right fielder over the long haul. And, on a really good team, Bill, I see Mike Yastrzemski as a fourth outfielder. I think he's obviously great on defense. He doesn't put the ball in play enough for my liking, but he's going to probably start in right field at the beginning. But I see Matos winning the job, and Marcos has got to make some breakthrough moves this year. They're moving him to the outfield, and he hasn't even hit his first major league.
Yeah, talking about, right?
Yeah. He hasn't hit his first major league home run yet, and we got to see a breakout year from him. So there are question marks, and then late night Lamont. Gets on base a lot, obviously high on base percentage, but he has trouble staying healthy. And can they stay healthy? That's obviously that every year we say that, right?
Sure it is. And that's on every team too, Mark. It's the health, and both Lamont Wade Jr., Wilmer Flores, both were injured last year. They both feel good through spring training so far. And you got the left side of the infield, one of the best with Adames and Chapman.
I love that. That's the strong. Yeah, that's the strongest
strength
part of their team, right?
I
Bailey
agree.
behind the plate, Bailey defensively behind the plate, and Chapman, on the left side locking it down with the new kid Adamas. I love that part of the infield, but we don't know if Fitzgerald yet is an everyday second baseman, and we don't know if Wilmer can come back and match what he did the year before last. I think he had a career high in home runs. But, can we talk about Bryce Eldridge a little bit?
That's my next question. Of course, Mark Aban one more time. Mark Aban is joining me for the last couple of minutes here. And, of course, that's going to be one of my final questions. Bryce Eldridge, a 20-year-old, 6'7", could be the DH, could play some first base. Does he make this team coming out of spring training in your mind, Mark?
I would always defer to anyone with big league experience, and obviously you were a pitcher, but I still think you know enough about big league hitting. And tell me if you agree with this. The differentiator for me in young guys who can make it, he's just 20, but if you look at a guy, the last guy to succeed big time at age 19 even was Juan Soto. And the differentiator there for me is guys who are young but have an understanding of the strike zone and can lay off the pitches way outside and not be tempted to overswing and not be freaked out when they go into a little bit of a slump. They have an idea of the strike zone. And it seems to me, obviously it's, we don't have a whole big history on Bryce Eldridge, but to me he seems to have a grasp of the strike zone. And that's why I give him a shot, if not leaving with the team out of camp, being up here this year, despite the fact he's 20. But man, his power is exciting going, back even to the first game he played in the Cactus League, man. He carries himself and he blasted a 450-foot home run, and then the next day he got kind of a bloop single to left. So, that to me, maybe that single's even more impressive. You know what I mean? In that, he made contact. That's the key.
Well, Mark, as we finish up here, predictions, everybody's got predictions. You've heard them all through spring training. March 27th coming up in a couple of weeks. What is your prediction for the 2025 San Francisco Giants team?
Oh, man, you just put me on the spot there. Well, last year I remember being on with you in spring training, and I was very optimistic. But I think realistically for this team, between 85 and 90 wins will do what needs to be done, and that will get into the postseason. And I think this team is definitely capable of playing plus 500 baseball, and they've got a good enough mix of veterans, and they've got some young talent coming up, and the potential. And it seems to me Buster's building a good character outfit. And the vibe, as you well know from being in big league clubhouses, can take you a long way and maybe help you exceed your talent level. And so therefore I'm saying the Giants will win between 85 and 90 games, and they will make a wild card spot with positive direction toward the future and continuing to, in an upward trajectory for really good things for the Giants and Giant fans. I love what Buster Posey is doing. I think it's all positive, Billy.
Mark, thank you so much. We'll save these predictions for September and see where they land, and I will be talking to you as the year goes on. But thanks again for your great insight.
If it doesn't turn out good for me, I'm going to duck you big time. I'm going to ghost you on your phone call.
We'll burn the tape, Mark. That's what we'll do. We'll burn the tape. Here's Mark Aban. This is Extra Innings. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
The game may be over, but we know you want to talk more ball. So KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Lasky continues.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
We are KNBR 104.5 and 6.8, the sports leader.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Post Game Show with Bill Lasky as we finish up a Sunday here in the KNBR studios. Giants win today 9-5. They're 5-3 with 2 ties. They have the off day tomorrow. They'll be going to Peoria to play the San Diego Padres on Tuesday. I want to thank my guests today, Sean Jelly and Mark Aban. If you didn't hear that pot, if you could also listen to it on the All KNBR podcast, they'll have that up after the show. I want to thank my 2 people in the studio, Anthony Garcia and my producer Kyle Hart did another great job producing the show, as well as you Giants fans out there listening in and having some great calls. Next week, Saturday and Sunday, the Giants entertain the Kansas City Royals on Saturday. We'll have that extra post-game show right after. And Sunday, don't forget, daylight savings changes. And so you get another hour of sleep. Games will be pushed back, and the Giants will entertain the Chicago Cubs. For Bill Lasky, have a safe rest of the night. Be safe, be well. Enjoy the rest of Sunday. And we'll have more coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.